Alright, YouTube, it's time for Occult Literature video number 99, 100 coming tomorrow. The Six Keys of Eudoxus, another alchemical text, 24 pages long. It's rather short, but it's compact, and it proposes a sort of six-step method by which alchemy, the great work itself, is accomplished. It boils down work that is normally explained in 3 or 4 times as many pages to a more simplified method. Sort of a step-by-step process. It makes it easier to understand, but you have to understand it also contains the same vague spiritual and chemical metaphors of many alchemical texts, and as such, if you understand what those terms mean, you're good, you're golden. This would be of interest to you if you're interested in studying the great work itself. If not, if you need more of a primer for that, there are other works, some of the Pontanus works, and I believe work of Saturn, certainly the Rosary of the Philosophers, would explain it perhaps in a little bit more of a beginner level amount of depth. We have a subtle allegory as well, I believe by Meyer, which is sort of in the form of a short story. So there are many other works available on alchemy, many of which you can get on my blog. Now, as always, link in the description to my edition of this work on Amazon. Second link to my books blog, lots of alchemical texts, grimoires, academic works on spiritual topics, herb lore coming soon. This particular work, I like it quite a bit. That being said, unless you unless you know what green oil and red dragon and black raven and some of these other terms actually mean, you're not going to make any headway. If you're interested in actually practicing alchemy and you don't know these things, you're not going to be able to use this as a step-by-step guide. But if you do, if you're willing to do the research into what kind of chemicals were being used, for instance, what is the most potent water of the philosophers, what is the philosopher's vinegar and the green oil in some of these terms. It's not actual gold, by the way, that you're creating. You're creating an elixir or some other interesting compound through a process that perhaps people back then couldn't quantify as easily as they can today. As I mentioned in my previous video, some of these things can now be easily created, much more easily than burning things in a composting furnace or with ashes and stuff like that, sort of in a kiln. Colloidal gold being one of them. I suppose, they were dabbling with the use of gunpowder at this time. Anything that had a chemical action that couldn't be readily explained was generally spoken of in spiritual metaphor. Now, the people that wrote about these things, whoever the author of this work, and it's not even known which century it comes from, 16th, 17th, somewhere around there, these people were aware that the spiritual side was not actually true. When we speak of alchemy, we often think of people in primitive situations. They didn't know what they were doing. They were just fooling around with their mercury and literally trying to create gold. The alchemists themselves, with a few exceptions, knew about chemistry. They understood that what they were seeing was some sort of natural phenomenon through their various workings. However, they would have been killed as heretics had they suggested this fact, because nobody else had the education to understand these phenomena. Gunpowder, colloidal gold, how to dissolve gold, how to counterfeit materials. People into metallurgy at the time would have been at least halfway cognizant of what was going on in some of these things. Other than that, people were still, just chewing roots up for medicine at the time. The idea of standardization wasn't really around. Certainly the idea of chemical drugs hadn't been developed yet. And so they were in a class of their own. They had to regard these as spiritual phenomena. So when you see the green dragon, the black raven or whatever, keep in mind that those are chemical terms that are veiled in metaphoric ways to represent chemical phenomena, but they are veiled as spiritual. This is an example of hidden writing, a steganography, so to speak. So it's an interesting work. It fits in well with the core of alchemical literature, and again, it's a simplified process that you see here. None of these works, as far as I can tell, other than Pontanus, goes into detail on what kind of fire specifically to use and so forth. And Pontanus only goes so far as to point to Artephius, I can't release that work because the only edition that I would be able to understand is fairly recent, so that's sort of out the window. I'll wait another 80 years if I'm still here. Maybe I'll edit it. But yeah, there are many interesting works within alchemy. So if you'd like a copy of this, again, link in the description to my edition of this work on Amazon. Second link to my books blog, again, just scroll down a little bit, you'll see alchemy, nice big button on the left-hand side for all the alchemical works. Interesting stuff. But you do have to take it, again, you have to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. The people writing these things knew that they weren't actually taking lions and dragons and mixing them together. They were documenting physical phenomena that they were witnessing. The spiritual metaphor overlapped onto what they were working with, has to be understood to actually do anything within alchemy. That's about all. Peace out.